all doing good? Well, I'm so honored to be here tonight, and I know tonight is about sharing stories that move mountains. And my story started February 22nd, 2010, about 18 hours after I became paralyzed. And I remember that moment so vividly. I was actually sleeping. I had a nightmare. And I was in so much pain in my dream that I woke up crying and not realizing that I was in the hospital. And I was in so much pain, and I was like, "Dad, help, help, help. I can't feel my legs." And my dad rushed over to my bedside in the hospital and trying to calm me down. And I remember this moment like it was yesterday. And once he got me calm, and I was talking to him, and I said, "Dad, why me? Why did I have to become paralyzed? Why can't I feel my legs? I knew what I wanted to do in life. I knew I wanted to be a dancer. I knew I wanted to move to Los Angeles and pursue a passion for dance." And my dad, standing over my bedside, staring at his only child, his baby girl that hadn't even graduated college or high school, just about to start her adult life, said something to me that night that was such a pivotal moment for me. He said to me, "I don't know, honey, maybe you're supposed to change someone's life." And still to that day, it was so incredibly powerful, because in that moment he could have said, I don't know. But what he gave me that night was hope. Hope that maybe there's a reason behind this. Hope that maybe I can change someone's life. And for the first time, after hearing I was paralyzed, and after hearing that my life was going to be different, I finally felt like I had some light at that end of the tunnel, there was a reason for something. And in that moment, I remember thinking to myself, I'm going to walk again. I'm going to walk again. I'm going to do everything in my power. I'm going to walk again, and then I'm going to dance again. And that hope gave me the power and the drive to figure out, okay, well, what's next? I got home from the hospital, found out about a facility down here, the Perfect Step, found out about it, and I said, well, if I want to walk, I need to go there, because the Perfect Step was the best of the best. The facility was the number one place to go to with a spinal cord injury. So I looked it up, applied for a scholarship, and I got a scholarship. And I remember getting that email, finding out that I was going to be able to have the chance to do some sort of recovery. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I had a chance, and I had hope. So I went to the Perfect Step, and I remember going in there, and I remember rolling in, and I remember looking on the right, and I remember seeing a desk. I remember seeing the receptionist, and the desk was my level. I know it's kind of normal now these days to have, an ADA desk, but for me, I was new to the community. And then I remember looking over, and I remember seeing someone standing next to their wheelchair with their knees locked out. And I was like, are they paralyzed or are they not? And then I look in front of me, and I see someone crawling on the ground with their chair behind them with weights strapped to their ankles to build muscle. And I was like, well, that's cool. And then I look over, and I see someone stretching out, hanging from their feet. And I was like, what is this place? And later I learned that it's good to do that. But I had no idea what I was going into. But what I saw was other individuals that were just like me, that had spinal cord injuries, that had the same goal, to walk. And for me, that gave me another sense of hope, that I could roll into a facility and everyone was at a level playing field. Everyone was working towards the same goal, regaining something, walking something. But what I also was in at that point was I was in denial of what my life was. I had no hope of what my future was other than just walking at that point. And so for me, going into the facility and meeting my trainer, I still remember my trainer to this day. And I remember meeting him and I was like, he's definitely a little more standoffish. He was this big buff guy. Didn't smile. I'm sure if you're a trainer here, you probably know who I'm talking about. Didn't smile, nothing. And then I said, okay, I'm gonna try and make him laugh. And I worked out with him for a few years. And I remember transferring onto this bench. And it was a, level bench. And I remember we were working on this all the time. And he would say, okay, I need you to kick your leg out. And I'm like, don't you remember I'm paralyzed? I can't kick my leg out. And it was like lifting 1,000 pounds that I couldn't feel, but I was trying to lift 1,000 pounds and kick this leg out. And one day, I got a reaction. He goes, oh, you did it. And I looked at him and I said, did what? What did I do? And he said, I'm so sorry. He said, you just moved your leg. And I said, I did? How? He said, I don't know, but you did. And not only did I get a reaction from him, but I also got hope. I got hope from someone that I didn't think I could get hope from. And he was the most incredible trainer because every step of the way, he encouraged me and he gave me hope. I remember going onto this machine bike. Well, at the hospital, they told me that I couldn't use this machine because my muscles wouldn't contract. I have a complete injury, blah, blah. And they said, no, we're just still going to do it. I said, okay. And about a few months later, going on it every time, my muscles started to contract. My point with all of this is going to the perfect step gave me hope. And I think till this day is still one of the most important things you could give someone with a life-altering injury or diagnosis, and that's hope. And I remember one of the days driving home when my scholarship was about to end, and I came to this mental fork in the road. And I remember thinking, okay, well, I'm not walking yet, but what's next? What am I going to do? And I thought to myself, well, I always wanted to move to Los Angeles and I always wanted to be a dancer, so let's do that route. And that's exactly what I did. I found the most well-known dance studio in Los Angeles and booked a class, showed up, and I remember rolling through the doors going, okay, I can do this. I got this. I rolled up to the desk. I was this high. And it was one of the first moments where I was like, this is not the perfect step. This is not made for me. And I said, okay, I'm going to take the beginner class at, it was like 7, 8 o'clock at night. And I rolled in. And every single person in that studio looked at me like I did not belong there. They looked at me like, why is this girl in a wheelchair at a dance class? Long story short, killed the choreo. But I left there and I felt defeated. Not because of the choreo, but because of the way that everyone made me feel. They made me feel like I didn't belong. The choreographer didn't see me. The people in the room didn't even talk to me. It was like I was not even there. Yeah. And I got in my car and I sat there and I cried 10 minutes. And I just said, why me? This is obviously not the perfect step. This is real life, and it wasn't made for me. And I remember getting home, and I said, okay, I have 2 options. 1, close the curtains, give up dance, never do it again, forget about it. Or 2, go back to the studio, book the same class, wait in line to meet the choreographer, and make sure that I introduce myself to the choreographer and that they know exactly who I am by name. I'm sure you can guess which one I did. So, met the choreographer, said, "Hi, I'm Chelsie, and I was a dancer before my accident." And something in them shifted. They go, "Oh." And I'll never forget that moment because it was the first time that I really had to grant someone grace. Because it wasn't about me. It wasn't about their class. It was purely just being able to grant this person grace that did not know anything about me in a new city. And I remember on the drive home from that going, okay, I'm going to keep going back and I'm going to train and I'm going to make sure that everyone in that room knows who I am because I can be just as good as everyone else with just half the use of my body. And I remember from that moment, I then found other girls, brought them in, they were wheelchair users. But my point with all of this is all along the way, I was given hope. And that hope led me to build a wheelchair dance team, the Rollettes, which now we have Rollettes Experience, which is the largest women's empowerment weekend for women and children with disabilities. And to be able to say that is truly crazy for me because it didn't start that way. But if I think about, when I was thinking about what I was going to say tonight, going back to the roots of who I was when I was going to this facility, if I had never gotten the opportunity to have a scholarship, to be able to go and work out and train, I would have always wondered, what if? I would have always wondered, what if I blank? And for me, I think about that little 17-year-old that was like, I'm going to walk again, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be that miracle. But I got something else that I think is so much more powerful for me. I didn't walk, but I got a sense of hope. And because of going to the Perfect Step, I got dance back. I was able to go there not knowing that I was learning this, but I was able to go there and learn independence. I got mentally strong, physically strong, emotionally strong. I met an entire community of other people like me, and that is priceless. And it's because of people like you that are donors, that sponsor, that give your time, energy, love, passion to be able to have a facility like this for us. And so because of people like you, I got the opportunity to dance. So thank you.